The hull of the Stargazer groaned as Alex Novak guided the battered vessel through Zeta 9's atmosphere. Warning lights flashed across the cockpit, bathing his face in an eerie red glow. He gritted his teeth, fighting the controls as the ship shuddered violently. "Come on, baby, just a little further," he muttered, his knuckles white on the throttle. The vast expanse of an alien cityscape materialized through the view screen, a sprawling metropolis of crystalline spires and twisting architecture unlike anything on Earth. Alex's eyes widened, momentarily distracted by the breathtaking vista. A sudden lurch snapped his attention back to the controls. The starboard thruster sputtered and died, sending the Stargazer into a nauseating spiral. Sweat beaded on Alex's forehead as he fought to stabilize the craft, the ground rushing up to meet him at alarming speed. At the last possible second, he managed to level out, the ship's belly scraping the landing pad with a screech of protesting metal. The Stargazer skidded to a stop, leaving a trail of sparks and debris in its wake. For a long moment, Alex sat frozen in the pilot's seat, his heart thundering in his chest. Then he slumped forward, resting his forehead against the cool surface of the control panel. "Well," he said to the empty cockpit, "that could have gone better." With a weary sigh, Alex unbuckled his harness and made his way to the airlock. He paused, staring at the sealed hatch. How long had it been since he'd breathed air that wasn't recycled? Since he'd felt solid ground beneath his feet? Too long. He keyed in the sequence to equalize pressure and opened the outer doors. As they slid apart with a pneumatic hiss, Alex's first glimpse of Zeta 9 took his breath away. The spaceport bustled with activity, a kaleidoscope of alien life forms scurrying about their business. But what caught Alex's attention were the humanoid figures moving gracefully through the crowd. They were strikingly beautiful, with perfectly proportioned bodies and delicate features. Their skin, however, was a mesmerizing shade of lavender that seemed to shimmer in the planet's golden sunlight. Alex stepped onto the landing pad, his legs wobbling slightly as he adjusted to the planet's gravity. A small crowd had gathered to gawk at his less than graceful arrival. He offered a sheepish wave, then turned to survey the damage to his ship. The Stargazer's hull was scorched and dented, with one of the main thrusters hanging by a tangle of wires and coolant lines. Alex ran a hand through his unkempt hair, mentally tallying the repairs needed to get airborne again. "Looks like you had quite the rough landing," a melodic voice said from behind him. Alex spun around, coming face to face with one of the lavender-skinned aliens. Up close, her otherworldly beauty was even more apparent. Large almond-shaped eyes the color of amber regarded him with curiosity. Her silvery hair was swept back in an intricate braid that fell past her shoulders. Yeah," Alex managed, suddenly acutely aware of his disheveled appearance after months alone in space. "Nothing I can't fix, though. Probably." The alien's lips curved in an amused smile. "I'm Lyra. I work here at the spaceport. Welcome to Zeta 9. "Alex Novak," he replied, extending his hand before remembering she might not be familiar with the gesture. To his surprise, Lyra grasped it firmly, her skin impossibly soft against his calloused palm. "It's a pleasure to meet you, Alex Novak," she said, her accent giving his name an exotic lilt. "I must say, we don't get many human visitors out this far." Alex's eyebrows shot up. "You know about humans?" Lyra nodded. "We Zetans are a curious people. We study many of the species that populate our sector of the galaxy." Her gaze traveled over him appraisingly. "Though I must admit, the educational hollows don't quite do your kind justice." Heat crept up Alex's neck at the compliment. He cleared his throat, gesturing to the damaged Stargazer. "Any chance you could point me towards some replacement parts? I need to get her spaceworthy again as soon as possible." A flicker of disappointment crossed Lyra's features. "You're not planning to stay long, then?" "I hadn't really thought about it," Alex admitted. The truth was, he'd been drifting aimlessly through space for so long, the idea of staying in one place felt almost foreign. But something about Lyra's warm gaze made him reconsider. "I suppose I could stick around for a bit. You know, make sure the repairs are done properly." Lyra's face lit up. "Excellent. I'd be happy to show you around our city. But first, let's see about those parts you need." As they walked across the landing pad, Alex found himself stealing glances at his alien companion. There was something utterly captivating about her fluid movements and the way the sunlight played across her lavender skin. "So what brings a lone human all the way out here?" Lyra asked, interrupting his thoughts. Alex shrugged. "Just exploring, I guess. Seeing what's out there." "All by yourself?" There was a note of concern in her voice. "Yeah, well." Alex trailed off, unsure how to explain the restlessness that had driven him to the stars, the inability to feel at home anywhere. "Sometimes it's easier that way." Lyra studied him for a moment, her amber eyes seeming to peer into his very soul. "Loneliness can be a heavy burden, even in the vastness of space." Alex looked away, uncomfortable with how easily she'd seen through him. "I manage all right." They reached a bustling marketplace filled with stalls selling all manner of alien technology. Alex's eyes widened at the array of advanced components and gadgets on display. "This is incredible," he breathed, examining a device that appeared to be a portable matter replicator. "Some of this tech is light years beyond what we have on Earth." Lyra beamed with pride. "Zayton engineers are among the finest in the galaxy. I'm sure we can find everything you need to repair your ship here." As they browsed the stalls, Alex found himself relaxing in Lyra's company. Her quick wit and genuine curiosity about his travels made conversation flow easily. For the first time in months, the ever-present ache of isolation began to fade. "You know," Lyra said as they haggled over the price of a new thruster coil, "there's no rush to leave. Zeta 9 has much to offer visitors. Perhaps I could give you a proper tour once your ship is repaired?" Alex hesitated, torn between his instinct to keep moving and the unexpected warmth blossoming in his chest. Yeah, that sounds nice, actually." Lyra's smile was radiant. "Wonderful. Now let's get these parts back to your ship. I'm curious to see how human engineering compares to ours." As they made their way back to the landing pad, Alex's mind raced with possibilities. Maybe staying on Zeta 9 for a while wouldn't be so bad. Maybe, just maybe, he'd found a place where he could belong. Little did he know that his impulsive decision to linger would set in motion a chain of events that would change his life forever. Back at the Stargazer, Alex dove into the repairs with Lyra's eager assistance. Her knowledge of advanced technology proved invaluable, and they fell into an easy rhythm working side by side. "Hand me that plasma cutter, would you?" Alex called from beneath the ship's hull. Lyra passed him the tool, their fingers brushing momentarily. A jolt of electricity seemed to pass between them at the contact. "So," Lyra said, her voice a touch breathless, "tell me more about this massage technique you mentioned earlier. Is it truly as relaxing as you claim?" Alex emerged from under the ship, wiping grease from his hands. "Oh, it's incredible. Developed by master therapists back on Earth. Guaranteed to work out any tension." Lyra's eyes sparkled with interest. "Perhaps you could demonstrate. After we finish the repairs, of course, for cultural exchange purposes." Alex grinned, a warmth spreading through his chest that had nothing to do with Zeta 9's twin sons. "I'd be happy to. In the name of interstellar relations and all that." As they continued working, the air between them grew charged with unspoken possibilities. Neither could have predicted the far-reaching consequences their innocent flirtation would soon unleash. Hours later, with the Stargazer's repairs nearly complete, Alex stretched his aching muscles. "I think that about does it. Want to take her for a test flight?" Lyra's eyes lit up. "I'd love to. I've never been off-planet before." They climbed into the cockpit, Alex guiding Lyra through the pre-flight checks. As the engines hummed to life, he couldn't help but notice how right it felt to have her there beside him. The Stargazer lifted off smoothly, soaring into Zeta 9's pastel sky. Lyra gasped in wonder as her homeworld fell away beneath them, revealing the curvature of the planet. "It's beautiful," she whispered, pressing her face to the view screen. Alex watched her, a lump forming in his throat. "Yeah, it really is." As they broke atmosphere and the star-studded expanse of space unfurled before them, Alex realized with startling clarity that for the first time in years, he didn't feel alone. The Stargazer glided smoothly back into Zeta 9's atmosphere, the hull glowing faintly as it cut through the swirling lavender clouds. Alex guided the ship towards the spaceport, stealing glances at Lyra. Her face was flushed with excitement, eyes still wide with wonder from their brief journey beyond her homeworld. As they touched down on the landing pad, Alex felt a twinge of regret. He didn't want this moment to end, didn't want to say goodbye to Lyra and return to his solitary existence among the stars. That was incredible, Lyra breathed as the engines powered down. I've never experienced anything like it. Alex grinned. Just wait until you see some real deep space. The nebulas, the star clusters. He broke off as Lyra suddenly doubled over, clutching her midsection. Lyra? What's wrong? I don't know, she gasped. I feel strange, like something's happening inside me. Alarm coursed through Alex. He helped Lyra out of the cockpit, supporting her as they made their way down the exit ramp. A small crowd had gathered, curious onlookers drawn by the stargazer's return. We need a doctor, Alex shouted, his voice tight with worry. An elderly Zatin stepped forward, his deeply lined lavender face creased with concern. I am a physician. What seems to be the trouble? Before Alex could respond, Lyra's knees buckled. He caught her, lowering her gently to the ground. The doctor knelt beside them, producing a handheld scanner from the folds of his robes. Fascinating, the physician murmured as he studied the readout. I've never seen anything quite like this. It appears that... He broke off, eyes widening in shock. By the celestial spheres, it can't be. What? Alex demanded. What's happening to her? The doctor fixed Alex with a piercing stare. She's pregnant, and if I'm not mistaken, you're the father. The world seemed to tilt on its axis. Alex staggered back, his mind reeling. That's impossible. We only just met. A ripple of shocked murmurs spread through the gathering crowd. Alex became acutely aware of the hostile glares being directed his way. Bring her to my clinic, the doctor instructed, his tone brokering no argument. We need to run more tests. As they rushed Lyra to the medical facility, Alex's thoughts whirled in a maelstrom of confusion and disbelief. How could this have happened? It defied everything he knew about biology, about the very laws of nature themselves. Hours later, Alex paced the sterile waiting room, every muscle in his body coiled with tension. The door slid open with a soft hiss, and the Zetan physician emerged. How is she? Alex asked, his voice hoarse. Stable, the doctor replied, and the pregnancy is progressing normally. Well, as normally as can be expected given the unique circumstances. Alex ran a hand through his disheveled hair. I don't understand. How is this even possible? The physician sighed, gesturing for Alex to take a seat. There's something you need to understand about Zetan physiology. Our skin is capable of absorbing genetic material through direct contact. It's a remnant of our evolutionary past, a way our ancestors reproduced before developing more complex biological systems. Alex's mind flashed back to the innocent touches, the brush of fingers as they worked on the ship. So when I touched her, you inadvertently triggered a reproductive process, the doctor confirmed. It's extremely rare, especially with off-worlders, but not unheard of. A leaden weight settled in Alex's stomach. What happens now? The physician's expression grew grave. I'm afraid that's not up to me. Word of this has already spread. The Zetan High Council will want to speak with you both. As if on cue, the clinic's doors burst open. A group of stern-faced Zetans in ornate robes swept in, flanked by what appeared to be security personnel. Alexander Novak, the lead council member intoned, his voice cold. You stand accused of violating our most sacred laws regarding interspecies relations. Come with us immediately. Alex's heart hammered in his chest as he was led away, acutely aware of the distrustful stares boring into him from all sides. What had started as an innocent encounter had spiraled into a diplomatic nightmare. The next few days passed in a blur of interrogations and medical examinations. Alex found himself thrust into the center of a cultural firestorm, his every move scrutinized by the Zetan media and public alike. Lyra's family proved to be the most formidable obstacle. Her father, a high-ranking government official, cornered Alex in a private meeting room, his amber eyes blazing with barely contained fury. You will take responsibility for your actions, he growled. Our traditions demand it. You will remain on Zeta 9 and undergo the trials of integration. Only then can you hope to atone for this abomination. Alex's fists clenched at his sides. And if I refuse? Lyra's father leaned in close, his voice dropping to a menacing whisper. Then you will never leave this planet, and you will never see your child. The threat hung heavy in the air between them. Alex's mind raced, weighing his options. The pull of the stars, the freedom of deep space that had been his home for so long, tugged at his heart. But so did the unexpected bond he felt with Lyra, and the child, his child, growing within her. As the days stretched into weeks, Alex found himself torn between two worlds. He threw himself into studying Zetan culture and customs, determined to prove his worth to Lyra's family and the High Council. But each night, he would sneak away to the spaceport, running his hand along the Stargazer's hull, the ship a constant reminder of the life he'd left behind. Lyra's pregnancy progressed at an alarming rate, her belly swelling visibly with each passing day. The medical community was in an uproar, fascinated by the unprecedented hybrid gestation. The fetus is developing at nearly twice the normal rate, Dr. Vex, the lead researcher assigned to their case, explained during one of their many examinations. And the genetic scans, they're like nothing we've ever seen. The child appears to be manifesting traits from both species, but in ways we couldn't have predicted. Alex watched the holographic display of the growing embryo, a mix of awe and fear coursing through him. Is the baby healthy? Dr. Vex's eyes gleamed with barely contained excitement. Healthy? This child could revolutionize our understanding of genetics, of the very building blocks of life itself. The potential applications are staggering. A chill ran down Alex's spine at the doctor's words. He didn't like the way the Zetan scientists looked at Lyra, like she was some sort of laboratory specimen rather than a person. As news of the extraordinary pregnancy spread, Alex and Lyra found themselves at the center of a media frenzy. Reporters hounded their every move, speculation about the child's abilities running rampant through the Zetan news networks. Even more worrying were the hushed conversations Alex overheard between government officials and military personnel. Words like tactical advantage and weaponization set his teeth on edge. One night, as they lay in bed in the small apartment that had become their shared prison, Lyra voiced the fear that had been growing in both their minds. They'll never let us leave, will they? She whispered, her hand resting protectively over her swollen belly. They'll never let our child have a normal life. Alex pulled her close, his jaw set with determination. We'll find a way out of this, I promise. But as the days wore on, that promise began to feel increasingly hollow. The Zetan authorities tightened their grip, monitoring the couple's every move under the guise of protection. Alex's integration trials grew more grueling, pushing him to his physical and mental limits. And all the while, the child within Lyra continued to grow, its very existence a ticking time bomb that threatened to shatter the fragile peace between their two worlds. As the pregnancy entered its final stages, tensions on Zeta 9 reached a breaking point. Protests erupted in the streets, with some factions demanding the immediate deportation of all off-worlders, while others called for the child to be surrendered to government custody for the greater good. Alex stood at the window of their apartment, watching the chaos unfold in the city below. His hand absently traced the outline of the small subspace communicator hidden in his pocket, a lifeline to his old contacts in the galactic underworld. He'd sworn he was done with that life, but now... Alex! Lyra's voice, strained with pain, cut through his thoughts. I think it's time. He turned, seeing her clutch her stomach, a puddle of iridescent fluid pooling at her feet. In that moment, all thoughts of escape, of the controversy swirling around them, evaporated. Their child was coming, and nothing in the universe would stop Alex from protecting his new family. Alex's heart raced as he scooped Lyra into his arms, her lavender skin glistening with sweat. We need to get to the medical center, he said, trying to keep his voice steady. No! Lyra gasped between contractions. They'll take our baby. We can't trust them. The truth of her words hit Alex like a punch to the gut. He glanced at the door, knowing armed guards waited just outside. They were trapped. Suddenly, the subspace communicator in his pocket crackled to life. A familiar voice, tinged with static, filled the room. Novak, do you read me? This is Captain Chen of the Earth Alliance. We've detected your distress beacon. What's your situation? Alex's mind reeled. He hadn't activated any distress beacon. Unless his eyes fell on Lyra, who managed a weak smile despite her pain. I may have tinkered with your communicator, she admitted. I thought we might need help. A wave of affection washed over Alex. Even now, Lyra's brilliance never ceased to amaze him. He snatched up the communicator. Captain Chen, this is Novak. We're in a hell of a situation here. I've got a very pregnant Zayton woman about to give birth to a human-alien hybrid, and the entire planet's government is after us. We need immediate extraction. There was a long pause before Chen's voice returned, laced with disbelief. Novak, what the hell have you gotten yourself into this time? It's a long story, sir. Can you help us or not? Another pause. We're about 6 hours out from Zeta 9. Can you hold out that long? Alex looked at Lyra, her face contorted in pain. We don't have a choice. We'll find a way. Just hurry. As if on cue, a pounding at the door made them both jump. Open up, a gruff voice demanded. By order of the High Council, you are to surrender the alien female and her offspring immediately. Alex's mind raced. They needed a plan, and fast. His eyes darted around the room, landing on the window. An insane idea began to form. Lyra, he said, his voice low and urgent, do you trust me? She met his gaze, her amber eyes filled with a mixture of pain and determination. With my life. Alex nodded, his jaw set. Then hold on tight. This is going to be one hell of a ride. In one fluid motion, he scooped Lyra into his arms and charged toward the window. The sound of splintering wood filled the air as the guards burst through the door behind them. Stop! A voice shouted, but it was too late. Alex threw his shoulder into the window, the reinforced glass shattering under the impact. For a heart-stopping moment, they were in free fall, plummeting towards the bustling city below. Then Alex's hand found the emergency grappling hook on his belt, a relic from his less-than-legal past. He fired it blindly, praying it would find purchase. The line went taut, nearly wrenching his arm from its socket. They swung in a wild arc, narrowly missing the side of the building. Alex's feet slammed into the wall of the adjacent structure, and he pushed off, guiding their descent. They landed hard on a lower rooftop, Alex twisting to take the brunt of the impact. Pain exploded through his shoulder, but he forced himself to his feet, still cradling Lyra. Are you okay? He panted. Lyra nodded, her face pale but determined. The baby's coming fast. We need to get to your ship. Alex peered over the edge of the roof. The spaceport was visible in the distance, but the streets below were chaos. Sirens wailed, and he could see security forces converging on their position. Looks like we're taking the scenic route, he muttered. What followed was a harrowing journey across the Zayton cityscape. Alex half-carried, half-dragged Lyra across rooftops and through back alleys, relying on every trick he'd learned in his years as a smuggler to evade capture. Lyra's labor intensified with each passing minute. By the time they reached the outskirts of the spaceport, she could barely walk. Almost there, Alex encouraged, his own body screaming in protest. Just a little further. They crouched behind a stack of cargo containers, the Stargazer tantalizingly close. But between them and freedom stood a cordon of heavily armed Zayton security forces. Alex's mind raced, searching for a solution. Then he spotted it, a fuel tanker, its hazard lights blinking lazily in the alien twilight. I've got an idea, he whispered to Lyra, but you're not going to like it. Before she could protest, Alex darted from cover. He sprinted toward the tanker, every muscle in his body tensed for the sound of alarm klaxons or weapons fire. Miraculously, he made it. Alex wrenched open the tanker's control panel, his fingers flying over the unfamiliar controls. Years of hot wiring alien tech came flooding back. The tanker's engines roared to life. Alex jammed the throttle forward and leapt clear. The massive vehicle lumbered forward, picking up speed as it barreled toward the security cordon. Shouts of alarm filled the air as the Zetan forces scattered. In the ensuing chaos, Alex raced back to Lyra. He scooped her into his arms once more and made a mad dash for the Stargazer. They reached the ship just as the first energy blast sizzled past their heads. Alex slammed his palm against the access panel, practically diving through the opening airlock. "Strap in," he yelled, depositing Lyra in the co-pilot's seat before throwing himself into the pilot's chair. His fingers danced across the controls, muscle memory taking over. The Stargazer's engines thrummed to life, lifting the ship off the landing pad just as a barrage of weapons fire peppered its hull. They shot into the sky, the surface of Zeta-9 falling away beneath them. Alex pushed the engines to their limit, the ship shuddering as it broke atmosphere. For a moment, he allowed himself to breathe. They'd made it. Then Lyra's agonized scream shattered the silence. "Alex," she gasped, "the baby's coming. Now!" He turned, his face pale. "What?" "No, not yet. We're still hours from the rendezvous with the Earth Alliance." Lyra fixed him with a look that brooked no argument. "This baby isn't waiting for anyone's schedule." Alex swallowed hard, his mind racing. He'd done a lot of crazy things in his life, but delivering a half-human, half-alien baby in the depths of space, this was a new level of insanity. He engaged the autopilot and moved to Lyra's side. "Okay, we can do this. Just tell me what to do." What followed was the most intense, terrifying, and ultimately beautiful experience of Alex's life. Guided by Lyra's instincts and his own frantic research on the ship's medical database, they worked together to bring their child into the universe. Hours later, as the Stargazer drifted through the star-speckled void, a new sound filled the cockpit, the cry of a newborn unlike any the galaxy had ever seen. Alex cradled the tiny being in his arms, marveling at the impossible. The child's skin was a soft lilac, shimmering with an almost pearlescent quality. But the eyes that blinked up at him were unmistakably human, filled with a depth and intelligence that took his breath away. "She's perfect," Lyra whispered, exhausted but radiant. Alex nodded, unable to find words. In that moment, all the fears and doubts that had plagued him melted away. This was his family, and he would move heaven and earth to keep them safe. The console beeped, snapping him back to reality. The Earth Alliance ship was hailing them. Alex took a deep breath, squaring his shoulders. Whatever came next, they would face it together. "This is the Stargazer," he responded. "Request permission to dock, and, we might need a pediatrician on standby." There was a long pause before Captain Chen's voice crackled through the speaker, a mix of amusement and resignation in his tone. "Novak, I have a feeling this is going to be one hell of a debrief. Permission granted. Welcome home, you crazy bastard." As the Stargazer maneuvered towards the much larger Earth Alliance vessel, Alex felt a sense of peace wash over him. They weren't out of danger yet, not by a long shot. The Zetan government would be after them, and Earth might not be much more welcoming of their unusual family. But as he looked at Lyra and their miraculous child, he knew with absolute certainty that they would find their place in the universe. It might take years of searching, of facing prejudice and misunderstanding. But somewhere out there was a home for them, a place where love transcended the boundaries of species and worlds. The Stargazer docked with a gentle thud. Alex took Lyra's hand, their child cradled between them. "Ready for our next adventure?" he asked with a grin. Lyra's answering smile was radiant. "Always." Together they stepped into the airlock, ready to face whatever the vast unknown future might hold.